Man, the vibe around the team right now is wild. So let's dive straight into this because Eagles fans are living through a roller coaster. Before anybody starts pointing fingers or spinning wild theories, I want to start with something that genuinely matters. Lane Johnson. The big fella has been battling through pain all season long. Barely taking a second to breathe, still stepping on the field like he refuses to let the team down. And now, with that Frank issue, the word is that it might keep him out for something like 6 to 8 weeks. That means he probably comes back only when things get serious, like when the playoff lights flip on. And honestly, that might be the smartest way to handle it. Let the man breathe, let him recover. Because he has done everything he can for this team, way beyond what his body probably wanted. But here's the real conversation that nobody wants to have. The front office cannot keep pretending this isn't coming. Lane is getting older. He has dealt with every injury you can imagine. The man has sacrificed more than most fans even know. So when you look at the long term, when you look at the stability of this offensive line, Philadelphia has to stop delaying the inevitable. Right tackle needs a real plan. You cannot keep tossing late-round rookies at the problem and hoping one of them magically develops into a franchise anchor. That is not how this works. Not when you're trying to keep a top-tier offense alive and protect your star quarterback from chaos when this offseason comes around. The two biggest priorities are cornerback depth and a legitimate answer at right tackle, period. And while we're talking about questionable decisions, we need to bring up the running back rotation. Because this whole situation with Will Shipley is getting ridiculous. Nothing against the kid. He is a solid running back 3, a good return option. Someone who can give you a couple touches a game without hurting the flow. But the coaching staff keeps forcing him into bigger roles. Like they're determined to justify the draft pick at all costs. Meanwhile, Tank Bigsby is out there breaking off nearly 10 yards a carry on average. 10 every time he gets the ball. Something electric happens. And somehow he still ends up on the sidelines watching touches go somewhere else. It makes no sense. This is one of the things I hate most about the league at the high school level. Even in certain college programs, coaches go with the best guy straight up. No excuses. In the NFL, the business side always finds a way to interfere. Draft status, contracts, front office pride. All of it starts influencing who takes the field, and everyone can see that Tank deserves more. He is playing at such a high level that people are actually questioning Saquon Barkley's workload. Which is insane when you think about the type of season Saquon is having. But Tank has earned those touches, earned the chance to split the load. Earned his role through performance, not politics. Now, let's shift into the storm brewing around Jalen Hurts. Because the noise is loud, all season long. The criticism has mostly been aimed at the coaching staff and at A.J. Brown. Because of all the drama around routes, targets, and usage. But Hurts, he hadn't been the center of attention until suddenly people started whispering again, and then you get a comment like the one we heard recently that basically said he plays his own style, not the one the coaches want, and that it is too late to change him, that he holds the ball too long, that the rhythm of the offense falls apart because he doesn't hit certain reads. And then the take that sent fans into orbit, calling it a Carson Wentz situation all over again. Let me tell you something, man. When people start throwing around the phrase Carson Wentz to .0, you know they're reaching. You know they're trying to stir something up. Because anyone who has followed Hurts' journey knows that is nowhere near reality. This is someone who got benched in Alabama on national television, stayed, worked, supported his teammate, came in during a bowl game and saved the day, then left with class when he needed an opportunity. Then he went to Oklahoma, dominated, almost won the Heisman, came into the league. Stayed quiet behind Wentz, never complained, never caused drama, just waited for his shot, and when his moment finally came, he grabbed it with both hands and took the team to a Super Bowl. So when I hear people comparing that type of mentality, that type of resilience, to the meltdown that happened years ago, it sounds like someone inside the building wants to shift the blame. Because let's be real, Hurts said it himself back during that Super Bowl run. He mentioned that he knew there were people inside the organization who didn't even want him drafted. He never said who. Never said whether it was the front office or coaches or even players, but he hinted that someday everyone would understand, and here we are. Years later, watching these weird little reports pop up whenever things get rocky. And every time the heat should be on the coaching staff, it magically circles back to Hurts. It is a pattern at this point. When the offense stalled last season, suddenly the conversation became about his leadership, not the play calling, not the scheme. Not the stale route concepts, not the fact that the offense became painfully predictable. No. The noise turned to Hurts' personality, his mood, his communication, like that was the core issue. It is the same script being recycled now, and then you hear players subtly reacting to the noise. Jordan Mailata basically shrugged it off but admitted how ridiculous it is. That someone inside the building is talking like that. And he did what linemen do, focused on his job, stayed quiet, supported his quarterback, because the locker room knows Hurts is not the problem. They know the offense has bigger issues. Creativity has disappeared. Adjustments feel late or non-existent. Stars are running the same routes over and over. And yes, players have to execute, but when the entire operation starts looking predictable, that is not on Hurts alone. The team is winning. They are sitting at the top of the conference. They have battled through injuries, adjustments, tough matchups, and still sit with one of the best records in football. But because the offense is not putting up fireworks every single week, suddenly the quarterback becomes the headline again. And people forget how this league actually works. Teams go through stretches. Sometimes the defense carries the load. Sometimes the offense looks unstoppable. And sometimes everything feels clunky for a bit before it clicks again. Yet instead of talking about protection issues, route spacing problems, or the lack of variety in the scheme, the easy button is always the quarterback. And what gets me the most is how fast people forget what this team just accomplished, not even a full year ago. Hurts went toe-to-toe with one of the most explosive offenses in the world, under the brightest lights, and delivered one of the greatest Super Bowl performances ever. He carried the team, made every throw, made every decision, and nearly pulled off the whole thing by himself. He did not flinch under pressure. He elevated everybody around him. But now, months later, some folks inside the building supposedly think he is the issue. It feels like these stories pop up whenever someone behind the scenes wants to deflect attention away from the real problems, and then they call him selfish. Which is the wildest part of all this? Last season, he willingly took a back seat when Saquon Barkley was on a historic run. No ego, no complaining, just total commitment to whatever helped the team win. He has always been that guy. Always team first, always focused on doing the job. So it is wild to watch these little narratives pop up out of nowhere, trying to paint him like someone who refuses to adapt or refuses to listen. If anything, he has spent his entire career proving the opposite. But enough of the drama for a minute, because the defense deserves some serious respect. One of the brightest spots right now is Nakobe Dean, and he made sure everyone understood exactly how he felt after that performance. When he said the offense on the other side kept going for it on fourth down and he took that as disrespect. That was the mentality Eagles fans wanted to hear. He backed it up with a performance that reminded everybody why he was drafted in the first place. 3 tackles, a sack, a tackle for loss, and really disciplined coverage against the different receivers who can stretch the field. He answered every question thrown at him this season, especially after people wondered how the rotation would settle once he returned. And next to Zach Bond, the chemistry is starting to look dangerous. The thing about Dean is that he plays with instincts you can't teach. He is not out there hesitating like a rookie who is still learning reads. He reacts with confidence. He fills gaps with purpose. He moves like someone who knows the entire defense depends on his timing. And that is exactly what was missing earlier in the year. It is no disrespect to the other linebackers who stepped in, but nobody brought that same sense of control in the middle. Now that he is healthy again, everything feels tighter, more organized, more aggressive. The difference is obvious. And then you have Jordan Davis, who came out after the game saying it was a statement performance, and honestly, he's right. The narrative all week was that the Lions' offense was going to push the Eagles around, control the clock, and expose them. Instead, Philadelphia held one of the most explosive offenses in football to 9 points. Davis played like a mountain with legs, swatting passes at the line like it was nothing. He tied the season high for batted passes in a single game, with 3. That is not normal for a guy his size. But he used every inch of that 6'6" frame to affect plays, even when he could not get all the way to the quarterback, and he wasn't alone. Moro Oyomo made plays. Jalen Carter looked like the force that everyone knows he can be when he's fully healthy. Jalen Phillips flashed. Brandon Graham had one of those vintage moments where he just collapses a pocket out of nowhere. Nolan Smith showed flashes, and Josh Sweat found life at exactly the right time, answering critics who wanted to know when he'd pick things back up. The entire unit played like they heard the disrespect all week and took it personally. That is why the timing of all these hit pieces around Hurts feels so off. The defense is peaking. The front seven looks connected. The secondary is finally settling in with the rotation of Adoree Jackson, Kelly Ringo, and the rest of the crew. The communication is cleaner. The run defense is suffocating. This side of the ball has finally arrived at the level fans expected back in the preseason. And it is happening right when the offense needs a little time to find its groove again. And here's what I think is coming. The offense is going to wake up. It feels like one of those situations where people get so used to the group being explosive that they forget how quickly things can turn once the rhythm returns. We have seen it before. We saw it in the conference championship. We saw it in the Super Bowl. One spark, one adjustment, one play, and suddenly the entire operation opens up again. You don't lose that kind of firepower overnight. It is just hiding under the surface waiting for something to unlock it. So all this noise surrounding Hurts feels like a distraction, a loud, unnecessary distraction. Someone inside the building keeps feeding these narratives. Someone keeps whispering to the wrong people. If it was just one report, fine. But these comments always seem to appear at the perfect time to divert attention away from coaching issues, away from schematic problems, away from accountability in other areas. That is why fans feel like something is off. The pattern keeps repeating, and every season, around the same time, the same type of story magically appears. But the funny part is that the locker room doesn't sound like it's buying any of that noise. You hear linemen defending their quarterback. You hear defensive players praising his leadership. You hear young guys talking about how calm he is in practice, how composed he stays after mistakes, how consistent he is behind the scenes. Players do not talk like that about someone who is losing the room. Players do not rally behind a guy who is creating turmoil. And the way this team plays in key moments tells you everything you need to know. This is why it feels like the real story isn't about Hurts at all. It is about someone inside the organization trying to shift the spotlight. It is about pressure, expectations, contracts, and the politics that come with a franchise trying to manage a Super Bowl-ready roster in real time. And when a team has stars, when the payroll is heavy, when the attention is massive, someone is always looking for a way to protect themselves by pointing elsewhere. And unfortunately, the quarterback is always the easiest target. FlyEaglesFly News family, smash subscribe and hit like. Your support keeps the freshest Philadelphia Eagles updates flying in. Drop your take in the comments and let's talk birds. A swirl of unexpected chatter has taken over the league today, and insiders are whispering that something seismic may be unfolding in Philadelphia. According to a buzz reportedly circulating from an ESPN segment, the Eagles have quietly secured signatures from none other than Jordan Love and Micah Parsons, though no official statement has surfaced. The murmur has spread fast, leaving fans, analysts, and rival executives scrambling to make sense of it. Sources close to the situation describe the mood around the Eagles facility as electric. As if a major organizational shift is underway, the rumor suggests that Love, long viewed as a developing franchise quarterback with untapped ceiling, has been drawn to the promise of a fresh system tailored to his deep ball instincts and improvisational style. Those claiming inside knowledge insist that the coaching staff sees him as a perfect schematic fit, a player capable of redefining the offensive identity and injecting unpredictability back into their playbook. Yet it's the alleged addition of Micah Parsons that has truly ignited shockwaves. The idea of one of the league's most disruptive defenders walking into the Eagles' locker room has stirred disbelief, awe, and instant debate. Parsons, renowned for his explosive first step, intimidating versatility, and ability to tilt the field on every snap, would instantly transform the Philadelphia defense into one of the most feared units in the sport. The whispers suggest he was swayed by the prospect of anchoring a defense built around his relentless motor, free to roam, attack, and dictate matchups, of course. Without confirmation, all of this remains suspended in the haze between speculation and reality. Some insiders raise eyebrows, suggesting the logistics of such dual moves seem almost too dramatic to be true. Others claim that the Eagles have been quietly positioning themselves for a blockbuster shift, and this may simply be the moment everything comes to light. That's a wrap from FlyEaglesFly News. If you want the fastest Eagles updates, subscribe, drop a like, and turn on the bell. Sound off in the comments. Let's talk birds.